Herobrine. I had recently spawned a new world in single-player Minecraft. Everything was normal at first as I began chopping down trees and crafting a workbench. I noticed something move amongst the dense fog. I have a very slow computer, so I have to play with a tiny render distance. I thought it was a cow, so I pursued it, hoping to grab some hides for armor. It wasn't a cow though. Looking back at me was another character with the default skin, but his eyes were empty. I saw no name pop up, and I double-checked to make sure I wasn't in multiplayer mode. He didn't stay long. He looked at me and quickly ran into the fog. I pursued out of curiosity, but he was gone. I continued on with the game, not sure what to think. As I expanded the world, I saw things that seemed out of place for the random map generator to make. 2x2 tunnels in the rocks, small perfect pyramids made of sand in the ocean, and groves of trees with all their leaves cut off. I would constantly think I saw the other player, in the deep fog, but I never got a better look at him. I tried increasing my render distance to far whenever I thought I saw him, but it was to no avail. I saved the map and went on the forums to see if anyone else had found the pseudo-player. There were none. I created my own topic telling of the man and asking if anyone had a similar experience. The post was deleted within 5 minutes. I tried again, and the topic was deleted even faster. I received a PM from username Herobrine containing one word, stop. When I went to look at Herobrine's profile, the page 404D, I received an email from another forum user. He claimed the mods can read the forum user messages, so we were safer using email. The emailer claimed that he had seen the mystery player too, and had a small directory of other users who had seen him as well. Their worlds were littered with obviously man-made features as well, and described their mystery player to have no pupils. About a month passed until I heard from my informant again. Some of the people who had encountered the mystery man had looked into the name Herobrine and found that name to be frequently used by a Swedish gamer. After some further information gathering, it was revealed to be the brother of Notch, the game's developer. I personally emailed Notch and asked him if he had a brother. It took him a while, but he emailed me back a very short message. I did, but he is no longer with us. I haven't seen the mystery man since our first encounter, and I haven't noticed any changes to the world other than my own. I was able to press print screen when I first saw him. My great-grandmother lived alone up in the mountains at her cabin. Her husband was dead, so she was there all alone. She only had one companion, and that was her loving dog. They both adored each other, and the dog was a great comfort to her. Every night when she went to bed, the dog would lick her hand to let her know that he was there to protect her. The Theater. Have you ever heard of an old PC game called The Theater? Yeah, I didn't think so. Probably because many people say it doesn't even exist. You see, The Theater is an old computer game released around the same time as Doom. Today, if you ever find it, it's only available on crappy bootleg CD-ROMs, which, more often than not, don't even actually contain the game. The actual legitimate copies that they say were released back in the day feature a blank cover with nothing but the sprite of what has since been named the Ticket Taker. He is simply a poorly drawn, pixelated Caucasian, bald man with large red lips wearing a red vest over a white shirt and black pants. He is completely emotionless, though some say that if you smash the disc his face is shown as angry the next time you look at the cover. But this is just dismissed as an urban myth. What is peculiar about The Theater, though, is that there is no developer named on the jewel case, nor a game description on the back. It is simply the ticket taker on a white backdrop on both sides. The game was initially known for its inability to install correctly. The installation process immediately locks up the computer when the user reaches the licensing agreement. Also strange about the licensing agreement for The Theater is that whenever the development studio is supposed to be named, the text is simply a blank line. Anyways, most people who have claimed to own one of the original CDs say that they figured out how to install the game by simply rebooting their computer on the licensing agreement with the disc still inside. Then they are prompted to press I agree on startup. Then they continue with the installation. The game then starts up without any introduction besides a main menu that is simply the sprite of a movie theater's exterior on an empty city street. The title fades in and then the 3 menu buttons: New Game, Load Options. Selecting Options immediately crashes the game to the desktop. Load is said not to function at all. Even if you do have a saved game, nothing happens when you press it. Thus, New Game is the only working menu option. Once it is selected, you are in the first-person view. You are standing in an empty movie theater lobby, with the exception of the ticket taker standing in front of a dark hallway which one can only assume leads to the theaters themselves. There's nothing to do but look at the poorly drawn, mostly illegible movie posters or approach the ticket taker. Once the player moves towards the ticket taker, a very low-quality sound clip plays saying, "Thank you, please enjoy the movie," along with a speech box saying the same thing. You then walk into the hallway and the screen fades to black and you're back in the empty lobby, and you do the exact thing again and again and again. While this may sound like a really horrible game, a number of peculiar things occur as you continue to play it. The number of times that you have to continue into the hall after giving your ticket to the ticket taker before the strange events happen is unknown. Most state that it's completely random, and could take anywhere from the first playthrough to the 400th. What happens, though, has deeply disturbed some players. The first occurrence is when the player fades back in after walking into the hallway. This time they will notice the ticket taker is completely absent. The player then, without any other options, decides to walk into the dark hallway. The sound clip and text box mentioned previously still play in the absence of the ticket taker. But when the player walks into the hallways, the screen does not fade out. It goes pitch black as they walk deeper into the hall. But the player's footsteps sound clip is still playing as they continue to push the up button on their keyboard. Those claiming to have played the original game report to have felt extremely uncomfortable walking down the hallway, anticipating the whole way something horrible happening. Well, eventually the player is unable to move forward. There is nothing for a few moments before a strange sprite that is described as the ticket taker but with a swirl for a face appears and stands before the player. The original players of the game say their bodies immediately froze up and their stomachs churned. They saw this sprite, which has been appropriately named the Swirly Head Man. Nothing happens as the Swirly Head Man stands before them. Then suddenly a piercing screech plays as the game glitches out. This lasts for a few minutes, with the screeching being continuous. Then the player is abruptly returned to the lobby with all the sounds and graphics being as they should be. The game continues normally for the next couple of cycles of entering the hallway, with a couple of the original players claiming the Swirly Head Man would briefly appear and disappear in the corner of the screen as a brisk yelp sound effect plays. Then, at some point after meeting the Swirly Head Man, the player sees the ticket taker pacing back and forth. Though there is no walking animation, the sprite's limbs are completely static, so he just hops up and down slightly as a substitute, with his eyes being wide and his mouth open to simulate a worried facial expression. Some players noted that the movie posters had been replaced with images of the Swirly Head Man, which caused them to immediately turn their character's head away from the posters and approach the ticket taker. Then another different, low-quality sound clip plays, but the speech box contains nothing but corrupted characters that cause whatever text that would have been in the box to be completely illegible. Due to the extremely low quality of the sound, it is debated by players what exactly the ticket taker says at this point, though it is widely agreed that he says never reach the other levels. Then the screen fades out once again and returns the player back to their starting point in the lobby. But the ticket taker is gone and the hallway is blocked by a large brick wall sprite. Touching the brick wall will immediately crash the game. And that's all there is to it. No one knows what the other levels are or how to gain access to them, nor is it known why the Swirly Head Man causes such acute fear in those who have seen him in the game. All the original copies of the theater have either been lost or destroyed. But the creepiest part is the fact that all the original players of the game claim to occasionally see a brief glimpse of the Swirly Head Man out of the corner of their eyes. Jack Hill. Hello, my name is Sean. I live in a high-rise studio apartment in Philadelphia. Recently, I've seen many arcane events unfold, and I would greatly appreciate any advice. Let me start at the beginning. Just a few days ago, After arriving home from my part-time job, I also go to Drexel University part-time. I decided to take a short nap on my couch. Around an hour later, I was abruptly awoken when I heard the sound of a disc being read near my television. I then rubbed my eyes and noticed that the Wii had been turned on. I didn't think much of it. Unusual things often occurred in my apartment. Doors would open and close, lights would flicker on and off, etc. Curious, I turned on the television and was delighted to see the Super Smash Bros. Brawl logo flash on the screen. Months have passed since I last played that game, and I was eager to reclaim my self-proclaimed title as the Brawl Master. I quickly set up a match between myself, R.O.B, and a level 9 computer player with a random character at a random stage. After the load screen vanished, Flat Zone 2, the stage representing an archaic game and watch console, was revealed along with my enemy, Lucas from Mother 3. Before I delivered my first attack, however, I noticed that the name over the character did not say CPU, as it usually does. Instead was the name, Jack H. That's odd, I thought. While I was pondering how the name got there, Lucas jumped to the ledge of the skyscraper that was near the corner of the stage. Suddenly, all in-game music stopped. I reached for the remote, wondering if I accidentally muted the game. While I tried, in vain, to make the volume return, streaks of static rippled throughout the screen. "What's wrong with this stupid thing?" I shouted. Then, a second later, I saw Lucas fall from the ledge of the skyscraper. But just before his body reached the ground, the entire screen was inundated with static, accompanied by a loud screeching sound. I hastily fumbled for the remote and shut off the television. Sighing in relief, I headed toward the kitchen. I was dying for something to drink. I made it only halfway to my destination before I was paralyzed by the baleful sight. On the counter lay a dusty game and watch. I slowly crept forward to find a note attached. It read, "You should play this game. It's really, really fun." At the bottom of the note was a sloppy signature. Jack H. Confused and panicked, I darted out of my apartment and stood with my back against my door. I took several deep breaths to regain my composure. Somehow, I convinced myself to go back inside. It was getting late, after all. I swiftly opened my door and saw another note on the floor. Trembling, I picked it up and read aloud. "Come play with me. Jump down, I'll catch you." Once again, the note had the uncanny signature of Jack H. The lights abruptly shut off, and the door leading to the balcony slammed open. A powerful gust of wind pushed me forward. "What do you want from me?" I demanded. All I heard in return was the lurid sound of a boy's laughter. The wind became so strong that I tripped. I was propelled to the threshold of the room leading to the balcony. With all the strength I could muster, I latched onto the door and screamed. Suddenly, the front door burst open and a voice loudly asked, "Sean? What's going on in here?" Simultaneously, the lights flashed back on and the wind dissipated, leaving my house in sheer bedlam. "Chris," I murmured, catching my breath. "I was just about to have a smoke, and I heard you yelling. This place is trashed. What happened?" "Chris," I asked, "do you have any idea who Jack H. could be?" His eyes widened, and he asked, "WH, where did you hear that name? He's been leaving extremely disturbing notes everywhere." "Why, do you know him?" I asked. His face cringing in fear, he retorted, "This is really bad. Hurry and come with me, I'll tell you about Jack Hill." We rushed into his place, adjacent to mine, and began talking. "Jack Hill was the only child of Mary Hill, who lived where you do now," Chris quickly said, while gathering many of his belongings. "As you know, I've lived here for a very long time. Jack and Mary lived here several decades ago. Being a single mom, Mary worked 2 jobs to support herself and her child. She did whatever she could for the boy, but was rarely home to see him. She longed for her son to be happy, and one day she bought him some video game called Fire for the Dash, Game and Watch?" I interrupted. "Yes," he continued. "Jack really liked that game. In fact, whenever his mother saw him, he was playing that game. He became so addicted to the game that he skipped school one day to play it. After receiving notification from the school, his mother had no choice but to take the game away from him. Afraid that he would find the game, she explained the situation to me and asked me to keep it. Jack became hysterical. Through the walls I heard him talking non-stop about the game, high scores, and how he saved the day every time. Though I found his rambling disconcerting, I saw it as harmless. That is, until that cold, windy night. That night, when Jack's mother arrived home, he begged her to play with him. "Sure. What would you like to play?" she asked. Then I heard a door barge open, followed by a strange request, "Jump down, I'll catch you." The last thing I heard was a terrified shriek next door. I ran there as fast as I could, but when I opened the door, all I saw was the deranged face of Jack Hill, standing next to the ledge of the balcony. "What have you done?" I asked. He flourished a big smile, one that felt like 1,000 needles piercing my skin, and jumped off of the building. After Chris told the story, he had finished stuffing his belongings in a suitcase. "Listen to me, Sean. Both of the people who lived there before you also leapt to their death. I refuse to see another life disappear before me. The police may think these suicides are coincidences, but I know that Jack Hill had something to do with it. His rancor will never be put to rest, Sean. You need to move immediately, before it's too late. I'm leaving now. Best of luck to you." "You're leaving already?" I asked, watching him press the button to summon the elevator. He gave me a nervous smile, waved farewell, and descended to the first floor. As quickly as possible, I ran into my room, grabbed my wallet, and left that wretched apartment. 2 days after these events, I am now typing this in a hotel a few blocks away. My student loans can't pay for my stay here much longer, and I certainly can't afford to break my lease. I'm terrified to return to my apartment, but I can't think of anything else I can do. Please, if someone here can think of something I can do, let me know as soon as you can. I'm running out of time. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and stay tuned for another episode tomorrow.